Welcome back. Today on the NeoMarketing podcast, we're going to talk about the rise of passive audio and other alternative content delivery forms.
Welcome to the weekly NeoMarketing podcast, featuring one half of the Golden Group C-Suite, Kyle Golding and Pritch Pritchard, APR, PRSA Fellow.
So, Kyle, one of the things I like most about you is that you're such a forward thinker, and you've given a lot of thought to this passive audio and alternative delivery stuff. Let's start with podcasts. It's changed. Your thinking on it has changed my view of the utility of podcasts.
We're practicing what we preach right here. We're doing our own podcast. We're not just telling other people, you do podcasts. We're doing it ourselves because we do believe in it. Passive audio is where attention is right now. Of course, attention is the currency. You can't convince someone, we work in marketing communications. We can't communicate if we can't grab your attention. We have to grab your attention where it is, not where we want it to be.
Right.
So podcast came back the last couple of years. They were hot for a few years. They went away. They're back right now because a lot of people are using this audio in a very passive way. They're on a treadmill, they're in the car, they're training, travel on a train. They're just entertaining themselves or educating themselves while doing something else, even if it's just walking to work every day. And so there's a lot of things that are happening now. You see the resurgence of the Apple iTunes podcast section, the Anchor app, a lot of audio apps that are jumping up to allow people to produce passive audio as part of their content marketing strategy. And I'm all about content marketing. So at the end of the day, passive audio, podcast, short form video that plays in the background while people are working on other things. We all have more than one window open on our computer.
Right.
All of these things are delivering communication the way the intended audience wants it delivered to them, and that's the key.
So you mentioned short form video. Vine's dead, RIP.
That's super short form video. That's micro form video.
But 6-second bumper ads are coming back.
Absolutely.
NFL's using them this season. So tell me a little bit about why short form video is an effective means of neo-marketing.
So it's similar to audio in that it's delivering short bits of information the way the audience wants. It gives them the opportunity to dive deeper if they want to. Attention spans get shorter and shorter. We like to joke that current public has attention span of a goldfish, like 7 seconds, right? That's why TV commercials went from 2 minutes to 1 minute to 30 seconds now to 6 and 8 seconds. Radio spots are sometimes 10 seconds now. They're selling those 10-second bumpers. Giving options to the audience as to whether they want to know more or not is the main focus of short-form video. Of course, it can lead to a longer-form video. It could lead you to a blog post, lead you to a website, lead you to social media, etc. People respond well to video. They like to see the visuals. They like to see people talking. They like to see the production value. They want to make sure that you're not some crackpot shooting on a terrible camera and from your prison cell, if you will. But you're in an office, you're in a nice location, you're doing something interesting and visual. And the great thing about my approach anyways to short form video is if it has great content in the audio, if the speaker or the subjects are conveying some good information, you can watch it or you can again engage it passively in the background while you're web surfing or working on your spreadsheet at work or whatever it is you're doing. So the options and the alternatives for the audience to choose the way they want to engage it is the key.
Now you mentioned blogs. Blogs have changed. When they were first introduced, the weblog,
right.
It was long form journalism, basically. That's changed too.
Absolutely. That still exists. There are plenty of people doing long form blogging. But again, you have to give your intended audience the options to choose how they want to engage it. I always prefer, anytime I do a long form blog, I always make sure that I do a long version, a medium version, a short version. Now, of course, with integration of social media, the blog doesn't do anything unless you let people know it exists. Right. It has to get out in the world. So that's where social media comes in, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, your email marketing, etc. You have a short amount of time to communicate the message, the idea of what your blog is about, so that someone could say in 140 characters on Twitter, for example, that's a topic I'm interested in, I'm going to click. Now that I've clicked on it, if I see 8,000 words, I may not read the whole thing. But maybe if I get the first couple of paragraphs with a read more option, or maybe one paragraph with a video option, now I'm really getting, as the audience, as the person reading it, I have the option to decide how far I want to go down this rabbit hole or not. If the headline drew me in, does the first paragraph say, well, I want more? If so, I can click read more, or I can click play on the video and let it roll. In fact, I've seen a lot of newspaper websites, a lot of traditional publications online are printing the written piece from their journalist, but then there's a video, there's interview of the subject, or the journalists themselves just literally reading the story back to you on video. And it seems a little bit redundant, but again, it's giving your audience the option of how they want to consume your media. If you give them the options, the likelihood of them consuming your media goes up. And at the end of the day, that's how we start creating opportunities for ourselves and our clients, is the more chances people engage our content. That's the key.
It is all about engagement. But so you can't just put something out there in a channel and let it sit.
No.
You've talked a lot in our conversations about aggregation.
Like I was just saying, it doesn't matter how great it is if it doesn't get in front of the right people in the right ways. But that's not a one-time deal. It's not a Super Bowl ad. You get one shot at your Super Bowl ad. But you really don't get one shot at your Super Bowl ad. You do ad in Super Bowl, at people at Super Bowl parties watching it all together, booing Tom Brady or whatever they're doing otherwise. But you notice now, Super Bowl ads being released a week early. They're showing the behind the scenes. They're having contests to help make their Super Bowl ad. Yeah. These are great examples of aggregating the same content over and over again. Taking the same thing, which is the anticipation of your Super Bowl ad, and building it up and then capitalizing on it once it's happened. It's the same thing with your blogging, your short form videos, your podcast. There's great communication. There's great information being on this podcast. But the podcast itself doesn't draw anyone in. We have subscribers to the podcast, but they had to find you somehow. Mm-hmm. Typically, they're finding you via social media, email marketing, or something other actual marketing program you're doing. So again, the social media, it's not about posting it one time. You can't tweet something one time and consider it done, because only a small portion of even the people following you, and then of course the entire atmosphere of people on social media, got to engage that one tweet or that one Facebook post. Even worse with Facebook, because they limit you. Well, that's a whole different podcast.
We could have a whole discussion about that.
But just because you post something on Twitter at 2 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't mean everyone saw it.
Right.
But the people who look at Twitter at 6 in the morning, at 6 at night, at 9 o'clock, and at noon, and at 4:45, those are the people you want to get in front of as well. So you have to continually repost and reuse the same content, the same information over and over again. And if you're really good at it, you'll find the headlines and the tidbits that get the most clicks, and continually use those and stop using the ones that aren't getting any clicks at all. So it's not enough to create great content, whether it's audio, video, written form. You have to create great content that's useful for people in an interesting way, and then deliver it consistently over and over again. Consistency is the key too as well.
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing a weekly podcast. We're going to create consistency. And then it doesn't have to be weekly, but it has to be on a regular basis. If you do weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, once a quarter, you just got to hit it that way every time. If your email goes out on the 15th of the month, you better hit the 15th of the month, unless it's Sunday. It gets a little. That's a whole different discussion again too.
So is it?
But you have to do it. You have to continually aggregate, continually deliver that message over and over and over again, because a tiny minority of your audience are seeing it in any given time. The flip side, though, is once those clicks stop happening, it's because you've overshared it. You've put the same thing over every single day, every hour at the top of the hour can wear your audience out as well. So you got to find a happy medium, and that's paying attention to your audience.
Okay. So I'm going to throw you a curve. Is it, what I'm hearing is it's part aggregation and part integration.
Absolutely. It's a holistic approach to communication. If you have content that's good, that people need to hear and want to hear, and is good for him and helpful to them, as my phone goes off, I thought I had it on silent. This is what happens. Then you have to have an approach that you communicate things that come from you because that's your area of expertise, and it given to people because it's helpful or beneficial to them. That's the integration part. That's why we're doing it as part of our marketing. That's why it's content marketing. If you're just throwing out willy-nilly information, there's a lot of things I know about that no one really cares about because I'm not an expert in that field. They want to know what I do, my 40-hour week, if you will, because that's what I focus on all day, every day. That's how I can give them information that's useful to them because I use it too. So it is half integration and half aggregation. Neither one of them is more important than the other, but neither one of them also can be ignored.
So, Kyle, you have a question for our listening audience.
I do. The great thing about podcast is it's one thing for Pritch and I to talk back and forth, and we try to trade off on expertise and who's discussing stuff, but we want some guests.
Absolutely.
We want some other people to join us because it's fun, right? And it's easy, and we like doing it, and you can come to us or we'll come to you. That's the beauty of podcast. So we want some people to join us on the podcast. We also want you guys out there to send us questions. Use that social media. However you're engaging this right now, make a comment and ask us a question and give us a topic, something you want us to discuss. But Pritch, the question I have for you is, what would be your dream guest? Who's something, and think big, don't doesn't have to be a local person. If you could get anyone on the planet to come and sit down with us and have a discussion about NeoMarketing communication, who would it be?
It'd be somebody in that thought leadership space in one of our areas of expertise. I think it'd be just absolutely fascinating to have it back and forth with somebody who has that expertise that we have.
I've had some very brief but some very interesting exchanges, and then his other content on social media is awesome. Mark Cuban is a great thought leader in that vein of someone who can speak to a topic.
He's not shy.
No, he's not shy. He communicates well. I don't always agree with him. In fact, I had an argument with him on Twitter, but he actually engaged me, which was really good.
Yeah.
He's a big deal, and for him to engage anyone talking to him on Twitter, I thought was cool. But he's definitely a thought leader who really communicates well in a situation like this.
So, Mark, if you're out there listening, come on, man.
Yeah, Dallas
Let's
isn't
do
that
it.
far away.
That's right.
Come on through. In fact, we'll come
come
down
to
there.
you.
We'll come to your office.
Absolutely. Road trip.
Right. For me, it'd be easy to say. I know a lot of you guys, especially social media marketing people, you're going to agree with me, of course. Everyone wants to get Gary Vee on their podcast. Gary Vaynerchuk is the guy killing it in all of this space right now. We'd love to have you on, Gary, anytime you want to come on. But who else, very similar, that I'd love to get on, and in fact, my friend Kelsey Humphreys got to interview him recently, is Simon Sinek. The golden circle, the why, find your why. Simon is awesome. He's less bombastic than Mark Cuban and Gary Vee, but he's a little bit softer in his communication, but his thought process is really brilliant. I'm a really big fan of his. I'm a huge fan of the golden circle. It's a really big part of what we do here is based on that concept of the golden circle. Full credit to Simon Sinek. So I think he would be an awesome interview and be an awesome podcast guest.
Let's reach out to him. Come on, man.
But, until those guys show up from the big places they live and do our podcast, if you're in Oklahoma City or Tulsa and you want to get on the podcast, hit us up on the social media and maybe we will. We'll see. We'll see if we can make it work out. At the very least, leave us some questions or topics you want us to cover on the weekly NeoMarketing podcast. Until next time, see ya.
Ciao.